What is up, everybody? Welcome to another episode of Limited Resources. This episode number 824. My name is Marshall. I'm one of your Limited Resources, and joining me on the line all the way from Denver, Colorado, it's Luis Scott-Vargas. Luis, how are you? How's the week going?
Good. Busy week as usual, but having a pretty good time. And I gotta say, it has felt really good to take the set off of Spider-Man, and a lot of people are following our lead because they're putting in kind of like the best draft sets of the last couple of years online. We've got Duskmourn this week, we've got Modern Horizons 3 next week, and we're actually going to give you a little draft refresher course on both of those. So if you haven't drafted those formats before, this will give you enough to kind of jump in, and we highly recommend it. We wouldn't have done this show if like they had put up, some medium draft formats, Bloomburrow or we both said at the same time, it's like, but these are both actually, I think, close to all-timer, if not all-timer draft formats. Duskmourn especially. I really love that set. And I'm just excited I get to draft these formats. I'd rather draft the new good set, but barring that, I'd rather draft a great older set than kind of a crap new set, which is honestly what Spider-Man is.
Yeah, I'm like 5 drafts into Duskmourn again once Jay told me it was up, and I'm like, all right, off we go. And I couldn't remember. My buddy Jay? Yeah.
Your buddy Jay?
Yeah.
I just want to make sure.
Yeah, it's funny because when they come out, I usually don't partake in the flashback drafts. I usually just stick with whatever the format is that's the current one. I don't like switching around that much. And I always forget, like, when Jay said, hey, Duskmourn's back, I'm like, which one is that? Right. But then once I see like 2 or 3 cards, I'm like, oh yeah, this one's sweet. And I have dove back in, and I'm looking forward to MH3. We're going to go over both of those. As Louis said, before we do, we want to say thank you to everybody who supports us on Patreon. It's patreon.com/limited resources. If you'd like to support us directly, that's where you can go. And we really appreciate it. Everybody who supports us on there. We also want to say thank you to Ultimate Guard for their support of the show. They make products to protect your cards, your decks, and in fact, your entire collection, all the way from sleeves to deck boxes to long boxes, backpacks, binders, all of that kind of stuff. And they make really good stuff. This is high quality, well thought out stuff that will last and do its job well over the long term. If you want to check out their full line of products, you can go to ultimateguard.com. And if you want to pick up something, you can go to your favorite online retailer or favorite local game store. Thank you, Ultimate Guard. We do appreciate it. Luis, we're not going to mess around. We're on a little bit of a schedule today, so we're just going to get right into the action here. So Duskmourn's out right now, and it'll be up through the weekend and early next week.
Yeah, it's up till I think Tuesday is what the schedule said. So closing out on Duskmourn, figured we'd throw it in anyway, and then MH3 is up for like a week, and they're like I said, they're both great draft formats.
By the way, very kind of them to let us know when they were going to take it down, unlike the way that they did for Final Fantasy.
Recording a Final Fantasy draft when they killed it. I'd assumed that wasn't on purpose, but I mean, who knows?
Yeah, it probably was. They were probably targeting you directly. Yeah, but people were pretty upset. There was no timer, there was no scheduling, there was no nothing. So if you were in the middle of a draft when they pulled it, it's just gone. So that actually happened to me as well. At any rate, that is not the case with Duskmourn. So Duskmourn came out, a couple of years ago now? 2024?
Yeah. Duskmourn came out about a year ago. A little more than a year ago.
Maybe it was the fall. Anyway, yeah. And this was the set, for those that didn't remember, this was the House of Horror set, right? This is kind of the scary movie trope horror one, right? Where there was a lot of the cards that were kind of pulled from classic horror tropes and movies.
Almost exactly a year ago. End of September.
Yeah. And we absolutely love this set. Where do you want to start with breaking it down for somebody who either hasn't played it before or is like, I did play that, but which one was that again? Like me.
So we're going to kind of use the same blueprint for both of these. And if we do future kind of like look backs, if people are into it, then probably do something similar, which is to start with a breakdown of what the archetypes are. And because this is, post set, we know what the best ones are. We don't have to kind of guess or oh, here's the 10 archetypes. I wonder which are good. We know the answer to that. Mm-hmm. And after we do that, we're going to do a crack-a-pack. Then we're going to look at all the best commons of any color or every color, and then some of the better build-arounds. Well, also just talking about the set as a whole. So Duskmourn was not the fastest set, but the 2 best archetypes were fairly, assertive, had a lot of play on the board and a lot of synergy. So The best archetypes were blue white and red white. Red white was just aggro. That was just the deck. Like it didn't really have any special theming going on. Blue white was kind of enchantment tempo. There was like a bunch of payoffs for casting enchantments. There's a lot of opening rooms. There's a lot of enchantments. Rooms are the card type that you cast either half and then you can pay mana to unlock the other half. So like, my favorite, of course, is the Meat Locker / Drowned Diner. So it was like 3 mana, stun a creature for 2 turns and tap it, and then 5 mana, draw 3 cards and discard a card. So, you can see how that card played pretty nicely. And so blue-white was just looking to like play cards like Gremlin Tamer. It's a blue-white 2/2. When you play an enchantment or unlock room, you make a 1/1 and make a bunch of stuff while like kind of having like kind of a tempo game. And then white-red, again, just fairly aggressive. The next tier of decks, which are all quite good. It's not like these 2 decks were head and shoulders above, but this is like roughly in tiers. Red, green, and black, green were both Delirium. Red, green with a more aggressive bent, black, green with more controlling. And the mana fixing in this set, they had the common duels. They had Spine Seeker Centipede. It's just the best. That's the best green common, one of the best commons, if not the best common overall. 2 and a green, 2/1, searches for a basic, put in your hand, and has Delirium, gets +1/+2 in Vigilance. So like you'd already play it, but then sometimes just they turn into 3/3 Vigilances in the middle of the game.
Love that card.
So you could easily splash, and I really like drafting red, green. I won I don't remember if it was $1,000 or $2,000 in the Duskmourn Arena Open with Red Green Delirium. Basically, there's a lot of like enchantments in the set. They seeded in artifacts. Like this is an example of a set that did a really good job of supporting its themes.
It did.
You could do the thing. Like they had like one of their uncommons was like the Wicker Folk, the red green 3/2 with Delirium +1/+1 and haste.
And it has trample, yeah.
And has trample. So like, but what's so sick about that card? It was also an artifact. So you'd play it and it would die. And now all of a sudden you have 2 types in your graveyard for other Delirium cards while benefiting from you setting up Delirium. And they had some good self-mill. So I really like drafting red, green, and black, green. Green, blue was kind of Manifest Dread control. Manifest Dread was the mechanic where you like look at the top 2 cards, put one as a 2/2 face down, and then the other goes to your graveyard. Obviously, you can see how that sets up Delirium. And then if it's a creature that you put face down, you could pay its cost to flip it up. So that wasn't actually a huge part of the card. Obviously, it did happen sometimes, but mostly it did not. And the green-blue decks played a lot of graveyard stuff. They're controlling. Their uncommon is Oblivious Bookworm, one of the best uncommons in the set. It's a blue-green 2/3. End of your turn, you loot. But if you played a face-down creature or flipped a face-down creature face up, you just didn't have to discard. It was just turn 2 Bookworm, turn 3 Manifest. You just drew a card in a turn. Yeah. Incredible card. And the green blue deck also could splash really easily, which was nice. And then black red was cool. It's black red sacrifice. So kind of like you've seen in a lot of other sets, but it actually just worked. Like they had the support for it. They had the good tools. Final Vengeance as the common, black sack a creature, exile a creature, enchantment. Or maybe it was black sack creature, enchantment, exile a creature. I don't remember, but it was very good. Marshall can find out for us now. And there was like threatens, and there was a lot of fodder. Clockwork Percussionist was kind of goated. This was a red for a 1/1 haste artifact creature monkey. And when it dies, you exile your top 2 cards or your top card, and you can play it till the end of your next turn. And it was perfect for Delirium or Sacrifice. It worked really well. It was actually one of the better commons.
It was a card you wanted in your yard, but also mostly replaced itself. Yeah.
Yeah. And also, when your opponent went turn 1 Percussionist, turn 2 Percussionist, you're just like, okay, well, I can't just take 1,000,000 damage. Like, It was good in red-white, too. And there was, like, the room that gave all your attacking creatures +1/+0. So if you ever had that, like, a lot of good stuff to do. And so those archetypes are all great. So basically, like, you didn't want it to be white aggro, white blue, or white red, or some combination of Jund / Simic kind of controlling Delirium graveyard stuff. The places you didn't want to be, these are the bottom 4 archetypes, which doesn't mean they're undraftable. It just means you usually don't want to be here unless you have a compelling reason. Green-white survivors, that was the theme of if your creature's tapped on your second main phase, do a thing. Kind of didn't work. Just wasn't very good.
No, it was just too hard to get that consistently going.
They're like marquee uncommon. Baseball bat had a very low win rate. White black reanimator, which I was kind of disappointed that this didn't turn out because it's pretty cool to try to do a reanimator deck. Like that's a cool archetype. They had some big creatures. They had a good reanimation spells like Rite of the Moth is a white black reanimation spell for 4 mana that flashback for 6. Had discard outlets, all that, but it just was a little bit too fragile. Didn't come together quite often enough. Could still be good if you got the right deck, but again, didn't really want to start there. And then blue-red, I initially had a really good success rate with blue-red rooms. So this is blue-red has all the room enchantments and a bunch of things that like help pay you off. Like Smoky Lounge was kind of their driving card. It's a 2 and a red for a room that adds double red at the start of your main phase, and you can spend it to cast or unlock rooms. So it's a soul ring just for rooms, powerful. And then you flip the other side and you make an X number of rooms you had unlocked.
Yeah, flying.
But yeah, it has flying. But it turned out the rooms deck was, again, just a little bit too slow. Most of the rooms didn't get you on board enough, unfortunately. So you could have some good Smoky Lounge decks, but mostly that wasn't super successful. And then blue-black enchantment control is kind of like the mirror of blue-white, but instead of being aggressive, you wanted to be control. It just, I don't know, didn't pan out quite enough. Skullsap Nuisance was the uncommon, the blue-black 1/4 when you played enchantment, you surveil one, and that with flying, and that, it was just okay. So basically, you wanted to either be a blue-white or white-red aggro, or one of these like kind of like Jund / Sultai mid-range, Delirium decks.
Yeah, so, I drafted a lot of Teamer in that set too.
Yeah, no, Teamer was good too. Basically, your Teamer deck was mostly blue-green splash red for some Scorching Dragonfires,
exactly.
Or you could be red-green and maybe splash a good blue card or two, like some Oblivious Bookworms in your Delirium deck. Yeah. And then, of course, the black-red deck didn't splash, was straight black-red and pretty focused.
Yeah, I think the big picture view that you mentioned, Luis, is this: if you haven't drafted this set much, think about the archetypes that we just outlined, excuse me, as being the good ones. And think about things in terms of, does it either enable the archetype or is it a payoff for the archetype? And this is where they really nailed it. They made a very good balance of both common, excuse me, I've been sick, common and uncommon payoffs that make it actually worth it to build your deck around, like, let's say enchantments, to have a certain critical mass of enchantments that was actually good enough to make that happen. And each of these archetypes that Luis just broke down has that dynamic of you going, okay, should I prioritize the enabler or should I prioritize the payoff? And it's almost always correct to prioritize the payoff, as they made it relatively easy for the enablers and the good archetypes.
I think one of the big things that they did in Duskmourn, which I hope they learned from because it was really cool, was they just put so many enchantments and artifacts and things to support like Delirium and to support Enchantment Matters. They just really went hard on it. Like, look at the red and green creatures at like common and uncommon. Tons of them just happen to be artifacts, like way more than they would have done in a set a couple years prior, I think. And it just like
definitely
too much of that doesn't really go wrong, but not enough definitely does. It's kind of how I feel. So really well done. Let's do a crack-a-pack. Let's kind of see where we're at.
Yes. So we will do a Duskmourn crack-a-pack. Our first card out is a foil Get Out, which is blue instant, choose one, counter target creature or enchantment spell, or return 1 or 2 target creatures and or enchantments you own to your hand. That's an uncommon, by the way.
This card was busted in the Duskmourn Omniscience draft. I remember that.
Oh, yeah, that's nasty.
I don't know why. Maybe because this format lent itself to. Well, I played a lot of Duskmourn Omniscience draft, like a lot, in the couple days it was up.
That's funny. So, you're the expert.
But yeah, you really don't want to take Get Out early. It's just a double blue card that's a little bit situational.
Yeah, next is Abandoned Campground, and this is a part of a cycle of dual lands. This is the blue-white one, and it enters tapped unless a player has 13 or less life, and there's a cycle of those, full cycle.
These are totally fine. Yeah. Obviously, you don't really want to first pick one, but they were good. And I mean, they were just blue-white tap lands that in the middle of the game started to not be tapped, which was great.
Yeah. So. Twist Reality is 1 blue for an instant. It's similar to Get Out, except for its counter target spell, just straight up, or Manifest Dread. That's where you get the 2/2.
Again, the double blue on this really killed it. I think this card could have been a little bit better if you could cast it more frequently, but it wasn't good enough to risk not being able to cast it when you wanted to.
Okay. And then we have Cackling Slasher. This thing was bad. 3 and a blue, 3 and a black for a 3/3 death touch. And it enters with a +1/+1 counter if a creature died this turn. This is a classic example of a card that you read it and you go, what's wrong with this? And it just didn't really play well. I was
just about to say that. We're actually about to hit 3 4-drops in a row, none of which you want in your deck.
Yeah.
And it really made me think, because when I was playing Duskmourn, there's also a 4-mana 4/4 survivor that if it's tapped, you gain 2 life.
Yep.
4-drop, like 3/4s and 4/4s have really fallen off, and I'm not exactly sure why. Maybe they just interact too poorly with cheaper cards. But yeah, these cards are all bad, because next up we have Anthropede, which is a 4-mana 3/4 reach that can discard a card or pay 2 to destroy a room. So sometimes it did something. And then Ripchain Razorkin, which is 3 and a red for a 5/3 reach, and you can sack a land and pay 3 mana to draw a card. Just none of these cards were all Ds. Like, you could play them, wouldn't be the end of the world. Definitely not picking them.
Razorkin also at 3 toughness was a critical
Just get Scorching
low
Dragon
toughness.
fired every time.
So if you're spending 4 mana and they're spending 2, it's not going to go well for you. Next is Tunnel Surveyor. This is 2 and a blue, 2/2, and when it ETBs, you get a 1/1 Glimmer, which is an enchantment creature.
Yeah, this was great. It was really good for blue-white, just because you could just play a 2-drop that cared about enchantments, play this, get a 2/2 and a 1/1 and trigger your enchantment thing, but it was fine in blue-green as well.
Yeah, Glimmers are very, very powerful. Next is Unsettling.
All the cards that made Glimmers are great. I would be on Tunnel Surveyor right now for sure.
Yeah, next is Unsettling Twins. That's the 3 and a white, 2/2, and when it ETBs, you manifest Dread.
Yeah, not quite good enough. You could play it if you needed to. It's 4 mana for
filler.
2 2/2s, but yeah, definitely filler. And then Fear of the Dark is 4 and a black for a 5/5. When it attacks, unless they control a Glimmer, it gains Menace and Death Touch.
Yeah, this one was like a bridge too far. Just ended up just not being that good. Next is Appendage Amalgam. This is 2 and a black for a 3/2 enchantment creature with flash, and when it attacks, you surveil 1.
Yeah, again,
so
these cards are all just straight up filler. Ghostly Keybearer is next. It's 3 and a blue for a 3/3 flyer, and when it deals combat damage to a player, you can lock or unlock a room. Just lock a room that you control. So
unlock a locked door of up to 1 target room you control.
Yeah, so basically what it did is if you had a room, you didn't have to spend the mana to unlock it, so you could play like a cheap room, then use this to unlock the expensive part. Right. This card was okay, but it kind of needed a lot of stuff to go right. I wouldn't take it over Tunnel Surveyor. Yeah,
the rooms deck didn't really come together as Luis described in the archetype breakdown, and this was kind of an enabler, maybe a payoff, however you want to see it for that. But they did put it on a 3/3 flyer for 4, so you could do worse.
You could play it in blue-white or blue-green and it'd be okay, but it would be near middle of the pack, whereas Tunnel Surveyor you actively wanted.
Right. This next one is House Cartographer. This is 1 and a green for a 2/2 with survival. So at the beginning of second main phase, if it's tapped, it says reveal cards from the top of your library until you reveal a land card. Put that land card into your hand and the rest on the bottom in a random order.
This card always played way worse than it looked. The Survivor cards really did. So I wouldn't take that either. But we got Piggy Bank up next. I like this card. It's 1 and a red for a 3/2 artifact creature at uncommon. And when it dies, you make a treasure. This thing was just great for the Delirium deck, great for the Sacrifice deck, good for the aggro deck. You really couldn't go wrong with Piggy Bank. I would take this over Tunnel Surveyor.
Yeah, Piggy Bank, good stats with upside. Our rare is Marina Vendrill's Grimoire. This is 5 and a blue for a legendary
Busted
artifact.
In Mental Magic or Omniscience Draft.
And it says, when it enters, if you cast it, draw 5 cards. You have no maximum hand size and don't lose the game for having 0 or less life. But it says whenever you gain life, you draw that many cards. And whenever you lose life, discard that many cards. Then if you have no cards in hand, you lose the game.
I mean, this card is funny.
Your life total becomes 5 or whatever.
Your life total just becomes your cards in hand, and when they hit, you start discarding. So definitely not a good card. But yeah, I'd be happy to take Piggy Bank. That's just fine first pick.
Yeah,
I would take Piggy Bank. Lean towards red green, but if red black presented itself or red white presented themselves, I'd be okay.
Yeah. What about the best commons? Like if we're talking about just sort of top of the heap power level commons, what are we talking about?
So white was trapped in the screen. That was the Oblivion Ring, but also had Ward 2. So it was pretty annoying to remove that.
Well, in a set that heavily rewarded you for certain archetypes for having enchantments. So it's like
it was like a removal spell that triggered all your enchantment stuff, and it was fairly hard to get off the board.
And they made it harder to get rid of. Like that was
it was maybe the best Oblivion Ring we've seen in a long time at Common, especially.
Amazing.
Blue was Glimmer Burst. This card was awesome. 3 and a blue instant, draw 2 cards, put a 1/1 Glimmer into play. So like it was kind of a 2.5 for 1 at instant speed, did all your enchantment stuff. It just played really well. Like it was a really nice one. The next best blue common was same cost actually. 3 and a blue to put instant speed to put a creature on the top or bottom of the owner's library and surveil 1, vanish from sight.
Yeah. The blue removal spell. In black, it's interesting. It was Final Vengeance that you talked about before. Black sorcery, sack a creature or enchantment as an additional cost, and then you get to exile a creature.
Yeah.
It's nice.
It just See, normally, like seeing this as like the best common really just keys you into how good Sacrifice was. Because if you were drafting a black commons, like Sacrifice was a big part of it, and they did a good job of providing a lot of fodder. You could play this in like black green. You didn't really want to all that much. I didn't like starting with black cards though, because blue black and black white were both fairly poor archetypes. So, and red black was also pretty linear, like it was very focused.
Yeah.
So there weren't that many ways to go if you started with a black card. If you first pick a Final Fantasy, you kind of need to go black-red, which you obviously would like a little more flexibility. Yeah. Red, Clockwork Percussionist beat out Scorching Dragonfire. Those are the best two commons for sure.
That's wild, by the way. I mean, because Scorching Dragonfire was really good in that set. Yeah.
Yeah, but the Percussionist really enabled all these things, and it was quite a strong card. And then green, it wasn't close. Spineseeker Centipede was so good.
It's good.
I would better than all the other commons. I would happily take Spineseeker Centipede first pick. And speaking of like, you take a black card, you don't have that many places to go. You take Spineseeker, you could go blue green, you can go green black, you could go red green. Don't really want to go green white, but you go all those other colors and play 3 colors without too much trouble.
What about some of the heavy, like the uncommons, etc., that are either the payoffs or the build arounds, however you want to put it?
So blue-white had 2 really good uncommons, Gremlin Tamer, which I mentioned earlier, and Inquisitive Glimmer, which actually they both cost the same, blue-white.
Yeah.
The Glimmer's a 2/3, makes your enchantments 1 cheaper, and the Gremlin Tamer's a 2/2 that gives you a 1/0 when you play an enchantment.
1 cheaper to undo.
It just they do all the things you want in this deck. I mean, that's what the Signpost uncommons are supposed to do, right?
Yeah.
Fear of Burning Alive was actually a card I really like taking early and building around. This is 4 red for a 4/4, and it ETBs. Let me just read the whole thing, because basically if you had Delirium, it would deal 4 to them and 4 to one of their creatures. But when it enters, deals 4 to each opponent. And then the Delirium part was whenever a source you control deals non-combat damage, it deals that much damage to one of their creatures. So it was always a 6-mana 4/4 that nugged them for 4. But if you had Delirium, that then nugged one of their creatures for 4. And if you could turn it into that, you were really cruising.
It was gnarly, yeah.
And then you could maybe get multiples or get ways to bring it back from the graveyard. It could do some cool stuff. Disturbing Mirth was also a really sick one. This is the red-black uncommon. So it was an enchantment for red-black, and when it ETBs, you could sack an enchantment or creature, and if you do, draw 2 cards. And when you sacked it, you manifested Dread. You couldn't sack it to itself. It would sack another one. But basically the way this would work is you'd go like, play a Percussionist, or there was a Cursed Rat, the 2-mana 1/1 rat that when it dies manifest. Play this, eat one of those, draw 2 cards, make a token off whatever they do, whatever. And then later you'd play another sacrifice effect, sack this, and get another 2/2. So like, when you did the thing with Disturbing Mirth, for 2 mana, you got 2 cards, a death trigger, and a 2/2 manifest.
It was
an incredible deal.
Yeah, and that was one of the great payoffs because nobody else wanted that card. Like, as Luis described, if you were the red-black deck, you are on rails. Like, you are the one player, hopefully at the table, who actually wants it. Where if I described blue-white or these Jund, Teamer combos, those decks can look very different from one another. But if you are red-black, it's very focused, and it's very much like that's the kind of card that you want, those distinct payoffs that really reference sacrificing or being able to sacrifice.
Yeah, that's part of why black-red typically didn't splash. It just really wanted to do the black-red stuff. It didn't really want cards of other colors anyway.
Yeah.
There's also the Oblivious Bookworm, which I talked about earlier, the blue-green card. That was one of the better first picks. And then Threats Around Every Corner was really fun. This is an enchantment for 3 and a green at uncommon. And when it entered, you manifested. And then whenever a face-down permanent enters under your control, so whenever you manifested, you got to search your library for a basic land and put it into play tapped. So it was basically a Solemn Simulacrum. You paid 4 mana, got a 2/2, got a tapped land, but also when you manifested other times, you would get more. And this would just lead to you kind of overwhelming them in the mid to late game when you went like Threats Around Every Corner into Manifest Dread into whatever other thing. Then you have tons of mana. You're unlocking all your rooms. You're just kind of getting to do all this stuff. There was a lot to do with your mana in Duskmourn, so ramping was pretty good.
You didn't mention Scrabbling Skullcrab, the goat build around.
Oh, the mill for 2 for when you played enchantment or unlock a room. Yeah, that card was fun too.
Yeah,
it was like blue for like a 0/3 or something like that.
It's blue for an 0/3, yeah, and it mills for 2. And if you could, it's an uncommon, so it was hard to get multiples. But if you ever could, your opponent really would have to start considering using their removal on it at some point because you could get 16, 18 either enchantments or card that makes an enchantment because of the glimmers that we talked about.
Yeah, and what's funny is like that card is bad initially when they're playing Delirium, but then obviously becomes more of a threat. And against Delirium decks, it actually was pretty good because they tended to self-mill. There were some decks that they would play that and be like, oh man, I'm doing half their job for them. So like
Yes.
they just use this to put me over the edge. Yeah, the scroll card was fun too.
That was a fun
So
card.
that's basically Duskmourn. Really fun set.
Great
I
set.
would advise you check it out. It's got a lot of synergies. It can be a little complicated, but hopefully this guide can kind of ease you into it. And then just the gameplay was really fun.
Now, what about Modern Horizons 3? This
Yeah,
is a
MH3
set that came out also last year.
Yeah, it was like in June last year. Because I remember I played the Pro Tour for it. I still, obviously as a competitive player, I'm never going to forget the fact that I punted to my last round of draft to not 6-0. I straight up just made a mistake on board, which I'm not to toot my own horn. I don't usually do that. That's not the biggest leak in my game, but it happened there.
You leave that to me.
Yeah. The biggest leak in my game is probably getting overambitious during drafting or picking bad decks in constructed. But so this was the Eldrazi set. The first card that springs to mind when we say MH3 is Writhing Chrysalis. That was, remember, people were talking like, is this the best common they've ever made? Is this ruining the draft format? The answer was no and no, but it was very, very good. It's probably in like the top 10 commons ever made, for draft. It's 2 red-green for a 2/3 Eldrazi. It's colorless because of the way the Devoid works. When you play it, you get 2 Eldrazi spawn, the 0/1s that sack for mana. And whenever an Eldrazi spawn dies, this thing gets a +1/+1 counter.
Yeah, whenever you sacrifice another Eldrazi, it gets a counter, and the stupid thing has reach.
Yes, and it has reach. So
why not?
Your opponent plays a Writhing Chrysalis. It's like, well, now they have effectively a 4/5 reach, but they don't even have to commit to it, and it ramps them into their other Eldrazi, and their other Eldrazi put more spawn into play, so it gets bigger and bigger. I mean, if you think about it, like on turn 6, sometimes you could go Chrysalis, because you just sack the first 2, and you end up with a 4/5, a 2/3, and 2 spawns that are going to transform them into a 6/7 and a 4/5.
Ridiculous
format, far from it.
Yeah,
but the headliner for this format is definitely Eldrazi. Eldrazi, so the archetypes worked a little differently. We actually have 8 archetypes because 2 of them were 3-color. Eldrazi was teamer, blue, green, red. So you could either be blue, green, or red, green, or blue, red. That was rare. Mostly it was blue, green, red in some combination, always involving green. Often all 3, because you could splash reasonably well. And to give you like a little anecdote, at that Pro Tour, I drafted blue-green Eldrazi in between 2 blue-green Eldrazi players, and I 3-0'd playing one of the other ones in the finals. Like, it was
well supported, to say the least.
It was the best deck. It wasn't the best deck by so much, again, that it ruined the format, but it was definitely a dominant deck. We found a lot of edge in that Pro Tour, specifically drafting black. We'll talk a little bit more about that when we get to the black archetypes. But Energy was the other 3-color archetype, and that was blue, red, white, Jeskai. So that was more often you were either blue-red or red-white or blue-white. Like, you could be all 3, and sometimes you were because you got enough of the right payoffs. And there was pretty decent mana fixing. Remember, this is the set that had landscapes. So Perilous Landscape was a land that taps for a colorless, or you can sack it to get a plains, mountain, or island into play tapped, and it even cycled for red, white, blue. So like, these were pretty powerful. They were 3-color evolving wilds that you could also tap for colorless the turn you played them in case you needed to hit your land drop that way.
Or if you needed colorless.
Late in the game, you could cycle it. Yes, and there was colorless in the set because of Eldrazi. Energy had a lot of enablers and payoffs across all those colors, and it was pretty simple. You were just trying to kind of play energy cards and then play cards that use energy.
Yeah.
And we didn't really cover exactly what Eldrazi was doing. All 3 of the colors were basically the same, which is they were just trying to ramp. They were trying to, like, the red-green deck was a little more aggressive and the blue-green deck was a little more ramp, but honestly, they all kind of blended together into play the good Eldrazi cards and play the good 7, 8s, and 9s. I mean, you could play the really expensive cards.
You could play the expensive stuff in this set, yeah.
But past Energy and Eldrazi, there's like green-black, like Graveyard. There's 2 green-black decks. There's the one they tried to make work, which is green-black modified with +1/+1 counters.
Oh, right.
But that didn't work that well. I found that just drafting green-black as like a Graveyard Sacrifice deck was actually just better. There was just a decent amount of payoff. Malevolent Rumble, just incredible all-star.
Yep.
The best green common for sure. And then red-black was like artifact/sacrifice. And that was one of the decks I drafted at the PT. I really liked that. Me and Sam Party were really high on red-black. Just, there was cards like the Marionette Apprentice, the 1 and a black 1/2, that either makes a 1/1 or starts with a +1 counter. You almost always made the 1/1. When your creatures die, it nugs them for 1. There's just like a lot of good sacrifice stuff. And
yeah, this is the one that had the ram, right?
Yeah, so Cranial Ram is red-black for cranial plating. So your creature gets plus X number of artifacts you control, but it started with a germ. It's a living weapon. So it was like a 2-mana 1/1 that was really like a 3/1 or 4/1. And then when it died, you just moved the cranial ram to other things, like huge payoff for red black. And then white green had a +1/+1 counters theme in an aggressive theme, which actually was pretty good. Like there were some good cards for white green that were able to like really pressure the kind of like slower energy or Eldrazi decks if you came across them. The archetypes I didn't really like were white black, like death triggers. This just didn't work. It was like way too weak to go over the top of Eldrazi, but also not fast enough to really compete with the fast decks. I didn't really know what this was supposed to be doing, but mostly what I did was lose. The green black modified deck, which I talked about, I just didn't think those payoffs were good. And then blue black had this weird like draw 3 theme. That's how you get like sneaky snacker back when you draw your third card in a turn. Right. You know, it had a bunch of payoffs like that. But like drawing 3 cards in a turn is not trivial, and the payoffs weren't quite good enough. So I would generally avoid blue black as well. Basically, when I sat down at the table, my first priority was be Eldrazi. If I opened a good Eldrazi card, I'd be pretty happy to take it. My second one was to try to draft black if it was open. Though energy was good. There were some pretty good energy payoffs. I didn't draft white green that often, I'll be honest, and mostly avoid those other ones. So let's take a look at a Cracker Pack and kind of see how that pans out.
Yeah, our first card up is Mandibular Kite, which was white for an artifact equipment with living weapon. And equip creature gets +1/+1 and has flying, and the equip cost was steep. It was 3 and a white. So this gave you a 1/1 flyer for white. Yeah. And then if you ever wanted to move it, you were kind of committing.
So this card isn't bad. It's not a bad card. 1-mana 1/1 flying that late in the game gives you a threat of like other flyers. But the problem is, if you first pick this, where are you going? I guess green-white counters is your best bet, but I didn't really like the black-white deck. I didn't really like, and blue-white was like an energy deck, so I would not take this card generally.
Yeah, but it did do really well. Like I remember,
it's a strong card.
Yeah,
for sure.
I remember it's strong, and I remember losing to it a lot. Like because this
could definitely beat the Eldrazi decks. I think it's good if you're already in white. I just don't think taking an aggressive white card is going to leave you that open to the best decks in the format.
Yeah, that makes sense. Next is Inventor's Axe. This is red for an artifact equipment, or 2 equipment in here, with flash. And when it ETBs, you get 2 energy. And when it enters the battlefield, you attach it to target creature you control. And the equipped creature gets +2/+0, but nothing else. So flash, but just power bump. And then to equip it, you have to pay 2 energy.
Yeah, I'm not a big Inventor's Axe enjoyer. The energy decks didn't really need energy that badly to play a card that mostly didn't do anything.
Yeah, it was mediocre. Next is Inspired Inventor. This is 2 and a white for a 2/2 human artificer. And when it enters the battlefield, you choose one of 3 options. You can make 3 energy, or you can put a +1/+1 counter on a creature, or you can make a 1/1 servo artifact creature token.
It's your choice of 3 mediocre cards. Mm-hmm. Would you play this in an energy deck? Sure. You wouldn't really take it early, though.
Yeah, not an early pick. Next is Nyxborn Hydra. This is X and a green for a 0/1 with Bestow green X. It has Reach and Trample, and it's also an enchantment creature for what it's worth. And it enters the battlefield with X +1/+1 counters on it, and the enchanted creature gets +1/+1 for each +1/+1 counter on the Hydra, and has Reach and Trample. These Bestow creatures basically take whatever they are and give that to the thing that it's being bestowed upon.
And then when that thing dies or leaves the battlefield, you're left with this.
It falls off, yeah.
This was a pretty good card. It really could go over the top in like Eldrazi Mirrors. It could be good in like the green-white deck. I think that's my pick so far, though. I would hope to do better.
Yeah, this pack's been medium so far. Next is Scurrilous Sentry. This is the 3 and a black for a 2/3 menace, and when it enters the battlefield or attacks, it connives, which we know because we just had that in a.
Yeah, this card was totally fine. It mostly suffered from just not being part of any synergy package. It was okay in like blue-black, but red-black didn't really care about it. Black-white wasn't a deck you really wanted to draft that often, so. I would generally pass on the Sentry, but if you had to play it, it was fine.
Next one is a card that you could think might be good in a format like this, but really underperformed. It was Sage of the Unknowable, the 1 and a blue 0/4 that taps to add colorless, that you can only cast colorless spells or to activate unability.
This was playable in some of the blue-green Eldrazi decks, but It did fall short a lot. Part of it was an 0-4 blocker wasn't like that valuable in the set, and you would often be stuck not being able to use the mana. So if you had a lot of mana sinks for it, a lot of Eldrazi, it could be good, but otherwise it was a little bit weak.
So I guess I'll do this medallion, I think, was from a different sheet or something, if I remember correctly. I'm just going to do the uncommons first, and I'll leave. We have two kind of rares.
One of the rares is Ruby Medallion. It's not a playable card, so we could just skip it.
So we're going to skip it. Okay, if you see a medallion, don't take it.
It was especially unplayable in Constructed, which I chose to play it in that Pro Tour.
Sorry. That's rough. First uncommon then is Metastatic Evangel, 1 and a white for a 3/1, and whenever another non-token creature enters the battlefield under your control, you proliferate.
Yeah, this is a case of a powerful card that didn't go in any good decks. Like you could play this in white-green counters, and it was okay there, but it just was a kind of a lot of moving pieces, and black-white was really the home where it was supposed to be, I think, but it wasn't really good in blue-white or anything like that, or red-white. It was just a 2-mana 3/1. So it's a playable card, and it could have some good games in green-white, but I would not take it here.
Next is Planar Genesis. This is green-blue for an instant. Look at the top 5 cards of your library.
4.
Look at the top 4 cards of your library. You may put a land card from among them onto the battlefield tapped. If you don't, put a card from among them into your hand. Put the rest on the bottom in a random order.
Great nice card. I would be taking this right now. I mean, it was just perfect for the blue-green deck where you could either use it as ramp early or just an impulse late. Really strong card.
This next one is Rush of Inspiration, which is a double-faced card. There was a ton of these in this set. On one side, it's 1 and 2 blue-red hybrid. So you can pay 1 red-red, 1 blue-blue, or 1 blue-red for an instant. Draw 2 cards, then discard a card at random unless you pay 2 energy. And on the other side, these were really interesting. They were lands. And this one enters the battlefield tapped, and it's a blue-red duel.
Yeah, I mean, this was a strong card just as a blue-red duel that you would sometimes cast, and obviously it did go well in the energy deck. I would prefer to take Planar Genesis over it, though.
I think so, too. While these double-faced lands were pretty good and they played pretty well, you still were often prioritizing just more outright powerful stuff to do than them. In fact, the next one similar, it's Disciple of Freyalise. This is 3 green for a 3/3, and it says when it enters the battlefield, you may sacrifice another creature. If you do, you gain X life and draw X cards where X is that creature's power. And the kicker on this is kind of crazy. The other side is a land that taps for green called Garden of Freyalise, and it says as it enters the battlefield, you may pay 3 life. If you don't, it enters the battlefield tap. So you can even get it untapped in a pinch or if you've got a bunch of extra life.
This is a close pick. I'm not actually sure. I think you're supposed to take Planar Genesis over this, but this was a strong card because it was a split card of land/expensive powerful card. And that's a really good split to have. It even could come into play untapped if you really needed it to.
All right. Well, if you're in the market for split land and expensive card, we've also got Blood-Soaked Insight, which is 5 and 2 black-red hybrid, so 7 mana total, for a sorcery that says this spell costs 1 less to cast for each 1 life your opponent has lost this turn. And it says target opponent exiles the top 3 cards of their library until the end of your next turn. You may play those cards. If you cast a spell this way, mana of any type can be spent to cast it. And this is also a tapped black-red dual land on the other side.
This card was decent. The dream didn't really happen in my experience. Like, you just never really cast this for like 3 mana and got to play all the cards. But a red-black duel is obviously just a great card. So I wouldn't take the Blood-Soaked Insight here. I'd always play it if I was red-black. I just want to caution you that I didn't see the insights happening that often.
Yeah, that did seem to be the case. Our rare is Eldrazi Linebreaker, which is 1 red and a colorless. And I mean, it has to be specifically colorless mana for a 3/3 Eldrazi with Devoid and Trample. And at the beginning of combat on your turn, target creature you control, get this, gets haste and +X+0 until end of turn, where X is the number of Eldrazi you control. And yes, that does count the little 0/1 Eldrazi spawn. This card is gnarly, but you got to be able to cast it.
I would just take the Linebreaker. Really, it's a really powerful card. It kind of pushes you into red-green Eldrazi. You do have to draft around it, but like I said, I would start most MH3 drafts with looking for an excuse to play Eldrazi, looking for like any sort of reason. And if it's clear that it's not open, yeah, you can pivot to something else. But the Linebreaker is just a really strong card. And you could also sneak it into like red black if you just have a couple colorless sources. It is by itself, it's a 3-mana 4/3 haste trample. Kind of a beating of a card. Like if you play this on card. 3 and kind of get to attack with it, and then on their turn they play a creature, you just play a creature next turn attack with both of them. Like
totally.
You're really pressuring them. So I would take the Linebreaker here.
I would
if
too.
it weren't there, I would take the Planner Genesis.
Yeah, I love the Linebreaker. Also, it's like it fits, especially the red-green archetype, really, really well. It was trivial to get that colorless mana to get it going, and then man, the beatdown potential. I mean, what was the other uncommon? The 5-drop Titans Vanguard.
Yeah, it was like the 5-drop 5/5 that put a +1/+1 count on all your Eldrazi whenever it ETB or attacked.
Yeah, and it had trample, and then you get Writhing Chrysalis, which we talked about before, plus a rare like this.
For what it's worth, Writhing Chrysalis is better than every card in this pack, and it's not close.
Yes, Writhing Chrysalis really is on the short list of best commons ever printed. Yeah, it was our first Mythic Common too for the show. Okay, what about some of the cards and stuff that stood out to you?
So the best commons for each color, white was Area Auxiliary.
What was that?
That was the flyer that supported.
Oh, uh-huh.
Yeah, it's 3 and a white for a 3/3 flying, and it has support 2, so it gives 2 other creatures a +1/+1 counter. It's 4 mana for 5/5 worth of stats, 3/3 of which has flying, and 2/2 of which has haste if you have creatures that can attack.
Yeah, that was a good card.
This was pushing white aggro pretty well, even though white aggro wasn't that good.
Yeah,
we both were like, what is this card? Didn't draft that card that much.
No.
Blue, we know this one though. Serum Visionary is 2 and a blue for a 2/2 that casts Serum Visions on ETB. So you draw a card and then scry 2. That was just great.
Yep.
Black was Wither and Bloom. That was the like 1 and a black -3/3.
Yeah.
And then you could exile it from your graveyard to put a +1/+1 counter on a creature. So
that makes sense.
Good removal spell with flexibility. Red was easy. Galvanic Discharge. I mean, this card's great in Modern right now. Red for instant. Basically, you get 3 energy, then deal X to a creature or X number of energy you spend. So at the minimum, it's red instant deal 3 to a creature, which is of course amazing. But sometimes you could deal 7 to a creature if you had a lot of energy, and sometimes you dealt 1 and stored up 2 energy and use that later. And then green was my goat. Malevolent Rumble, my favorite green card. Just 1 and a green. Look at the top 4 cards, put a permanent in your hand, the rest in the graveyard, and make an Eldrazi spawn. Just a really, really great card.
Yeah, that was one of those really cool cards for us when the set was out as well, because we have seen so many versions of green or 1 and a green, look at some cards and get like a permanent, and I mean like get a permanent from among them, or a card or a land, or just this like mediocre card selection out of green. And at first blush, this looks similar to those where you're like, yeah, these are always like D cards, like maybe filler at very best, but you'd rather just have another creature rather than these weird, filtering stuff in green. But Malevolent Rumble's on a totally different level from that. They just bumped enough raw power out of this thing to make it amazing. Like it's so much better. If you've never played MH3, this is a card you could just go right by and never even really look at, and you'd be making a huge mistake because it is awesome.
I mean, I did a video about Cube today, and this is my pick for the best green card in Cube. Of all green cards in existence. Whoa. I wasn't counting Minsk and Boo or Nadu, any of the multicolor cards, but of monocolor cards, I actually think this is the best one.
Oh my God, are you serious? What have you done to Cube, Louis? I haven't played Cube in like a little while, and Malevolent Rumbles now is green just horrendous?
It's so good. Well, yeah, but also just Malevolent Rumble is really good. Part of it is Malevolent Rumble fits into a lot of decks, so
I can't get like a fast bond, or I don't.
No, definitely not fast. You could argue Birds of Paradise or Noble or Ignoble Hierarch. Those cards are great too. But I and there's some green decks that would rather have the 1-drops, of course. But Malevolent Rumble. I mean, you ever have Underworld Breach Malevolent Rumble going?
No, I haven't.
That's juicy. Speaking of build-arounds, by the way, Chthonian Nightmare was a really fun one. This is the new take on Recurring Nightmares. 1 and a black enchantment. ETB gets 3 energy, and you can like sack a creature, return Nightmare to your hand, pay X energy, and get back a creature that costs X. But like you could just like loop it, especially if you had cheap creatures, gaining energy, building up to a big thing. And in red black, you could like sack germs, and like it was a cool card.
It was a difficult card to set up, but once you did, it did really kind of engine its way to victories.
Ether Revolt was a nice one. This is it was cost 4 mana, I think. It was 2 red for an enchantment. It was the funny thing is actually the name of a set as well. And it's like whenever you gain energy, deal that much damage to any target. I think was what it was.
This is funny. Scryfall just went down. I think.
I think for both of us.
I can't search for it now.
It's 2 red, and whenever you gain energy, it deals that much damage to any target, and it had a revolt. So as long as a permanent left the battlefield, your non-combat source has dealt an additional 2 this turn. So the joke here is you sack a fetch land, and then you gain energy and deal 5 damage. You could just nug them down.
That's funny.
Pretty quickly.
Producer
Scryfall's
Jeff
down for
says
Jeff.
Scryfall won't load for him either. We caught him during an upgrade or something. That's really funny.
Kozilek's Unsealing was a fun one. That was an enchantment for 2 and a blue, and what it did is it whenever you played a card with a creature spell, mana value 4, 5, or 6, you make 2 Eldrazi spawn. So you pay 3 mana, you play this, turn 4, you play a 4-drop, you get 2 Eldrazi spawn. If you do that twice, you're ahead of the game, right? You get 4 spawn. And whenever you cast a creature spell with mana value 7 or greater, draw 3 cards, which you could totally do in this format. There was a lot of stuff. The classic curve, turn 3 this, turn 4 Eldrazi, turn 5 7-drop, draw 3 cards. You're super ahead that game.
Yeah. And these type of cards, actually, you did have enough time in this format to make those work. And there was definitely enough support. I mean, the next one that you're going to talk about is kind of
this is probably one of our favorite cards in the set. It's just 3 and a green. It's Path of Annihilation. 3 and a green for an enchantment at uncommon. When it enters the battlefield, you make 2 Eldrazi spawn. Your Eldrazi have tap at 1 mana of any color. And when you cast a 7-drop, gain 4 life. Something mana value 7 or greater, gain 4 life. So you'd play this. Next turn, you just have 7 mana without playing a single other card, as long as you play the land, of course. And you didn't have to sack your Eldrazi spawn. And your Eldrazi spawn could tap for mana with this and then sack. So you could play like a 9-drop on the next turn. And then you gain 4 life whenever you played a big thing. Yeah. Path of Annihilation was fun. That was a good one, too.
Yeah, and you can tell that the Kozilek's Unsealing Path of Annihilation picks, those were good cards. Like, we really liked them, but they were also really good cards. There was very much an arms race because a lot of people would just draft Eldrazi. I did basically every time. Like, you would not catch me, trying to like make some white aggro deck work or whatever. There was so much good playables that it felt like one of those sets where you could sit down with at least a broad target of colors and ideas in your mind and hit it basically every time. That's not the same thing as forcing like a 2-color archetype every time, but it was in that ballpark where it was like, I'm going to be green based and I'm going to have some blue, red, and or black cards around it. And I'm going to try to kind of build this big monstrosity of, battle cruiser style Magic. And these were the cards that put you over the top against anybody else that was trying to do something similar. The only decks that they faltered against were the super aggressive ones, but even then there are some cards that if you get to cast a 7-drop on turn 4 or 5, that's going to be a big problem for your opponent. Plus, anything that makes Eldrazi spawn was really good at buying you enough time, because even if you didn't need them for the mana straight away, they do chump block. Like, they would soak up 4 damage, 5 damage, somewhat routinely. But
one of the cool things about this format and the way it worked, as the way it played out, the kind of dynamics was, as the Eldrazi decks try to go bigger and bigger to beat each other, the 2 best decks, like the 2 best aggressive decks could take advantage of it. Like white, green, or aggressive energy could really go under them, and actually kind of, this is why the Mandibular Kite and whatnot can actually steal some good games. So this format had a lot of play to it. The Eldrazi decks were maybe a little bit too good, a little overtuned, but I would say this is one of the best formats of the last couple of years. It was really fun. And if you go in, I would try to draft Eldrazi, or if you get a good energy payoff, or you get a good black sacrifice deck. Those are like kind of the main things. Honestly, you would probably do fine forcing Eldrazi if you wanted to. I'm not sure what these queues look like, but if you force harder than other people there, you might actually just be totally fine if you can, bully them out of Eldrazi.
Totally. And yeah, it is curious about what the queues will be about, whether it's people that really love this set are in there, or if it's kind of like your average limited player who's like, well, what's up now? Because I don't really want to play Spider-Man and they just took Duskmourn off. Okay, well, I guess I'll try this set out. That's all fine and dandy. And if that's the case, the first multiple weeks of this format were truly dominated by Writhing Chrysalis style decks, and that card specifically, to the point that we talked about it on the show, and the discussion in the community was like, did they basically ruin this set by making
it's too
Writhing
good as the
Chrysalis?
draft formats ruined
Right. And it turns out this one did have just enough gas in the tank to be able to self-correct so that there couldn't, and there's only so many Writhing Chrysalis that can be open, but it was close. Like this card, and that card is still completely busted. Like when you play it, you're just like, I cannot believe that this is a common. And if you're playing against it, it's the same thing. If you are playing the aggro deck and they go turn 4, turn 3 Chrysalis, you're just like, this is stupid. Like I can't get through that thing. It's going to be huge. It doesn't matter if I kill it, and it's difficult to kill, by the way. And so if you can capture some of that week 1 glory again, like if the cues line up that way, that is definitely the thing to do. Like don't overcomplicate it. Just take as many of those Chrysalis as you can. If it is a more experienced group of players that are jumping into this, think people that like to cube, they kind of know the tricks of the trade, then you're going to have to actually scrap it out and do some of the more well-rounded approach that Luis and I talked about here.
You should definitely draft this set. It's going to go up in a couple days. It's going to be really fun.
Yeah, this is cool, man. I mean, they're bringing back the good stuff.
Honestly, like, again, I'd rather have a new good set, but I think I'm going to have more fun drafting these sets than I did drafting, again, something like Bloomber or whatever, one of the more recent sets that were like kind of medium on. Edge of Eternities was fine.
Yeah.
But I'm going to have more fun drafting Duskmourn or MH3.
I already have. I already have.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, we're going to call it a show there. Hopefully you get a chance to dive into the cues as they come up, and we'll take advantage of a little bit of weirdness. This is the first time we've ever had it where we didn't just have the normal set that we kind of were able to focus on. So we're going to take this opportunity to enjoy some of these older sets, and we hope you do too. If you want to find us on social media, I'm Marshall_LR and Luis's LSV. You can find everything related to the podcast at lrcast.com. We want to thank everybody who supports us on Patreon, as well as Ultimate Guard for their support of the show. That's going to do it for this one. We will see you next week.
All right, so I came up with a good move in Among Us, and I think it's a funny play. So a very common thing in Among Us, this is a game I've obviously been playing a lot of. I actually just posted a video of it. I played in a 5-Ups lobby. He's a big Among Us streamer, and it was really fun.
Is this on your YouTube channel now?
It's on my YouTube channel now, yeah. So in Among Us, your crewmates, right, trying to find the imposters, and the imposters can kill people, and you can report the bodies. In a very common scenario, you walk in, let's say I walk in and Marshall's standing over a body. He just killed the body as an imposter, and I report the body. Mm-hmm. Now that's what's called a 50-50 in the meeting, because we both go into the meeting and there's no one else around, right? And I'm like, I just saw Marshall kill Jeff. And then
I immediately go, no, it was Luis.
You're like, no, don't even try to pull that. I saw Luis. He's the one who did it. And then the crew is faced with a situation, and that's why it's called a 50-50. Most of the time, realistically, it's not a 50-50 because one person is more convincing than the other. And if you've never played social deduction games, truth is really strong. Truth is very powerful. The person telling the truth actually does win more often than not. But if both players are good, and let's say both players are very experienced, people could believe that both of them could lie well, then it is a 50-50. And a really typical thing to do in that spot is you vote one out and then you vote the next person out. You're like, well, I don't know who was the imposter, but trading one crewmate for one imposter is a great trade. So we're just going to vote Luis out, and then we're going to, call an emergency meeting and vote Marshall out, right? Well, I came up with a new plan as crewmate, and I actually did this in the video I posted. It's called you trap the imposter. And here's what happened is I go into the bottom of O2, one of the buildings there, and see a dead body, and I see and I see the imposter kind of running away from it, but I saw them. They actually ran across me, like they ran over me out of the building. I walk in, see the body. I report it. I go to the meeting. I'm like, okay, I'm reporting a dead body. But I didn't see anyone near it. Where is everyone at? And so at this point, the imposter's like, "Ooh, I got away with it. Nice." So people start reporting, and I'm like, "Oh, it was the person was like Toharu. I don't know who they don't really know them, but they were in the game." I'm like, "Toharu, what was your path today?" It's a common question. They're like, "Oh, I went down into communications." I'm like, "Okay." Well, I saw Toharu walking off the body, actually. I wanted to see if they were going to accuse me, but no, they killed this person, they walked off. And at that point, they're just completely screwed.
Oh, because now they can't say, no, actually, I was there and he's lying.
They can't claim I killed the body.
Yeah, that's incredible.
All they can claim is, no, I'm not anywhere near there. But you know what imposters never do? They don't kill someone and then just report it and claim, like, I don't just kill Jeff and then report it and be like, nope, I just saw Marshall kill, because you'd be like, dude, what are you talking about? I'm standing next to Dennis over here.
Yeah, it's too big of a risk. Yeah.
Unbeatable if they let you do it. what they have to do in that spot, if they know you're going to do this, which Tahara didn't, I kind of got to sucker them. They have to just start the meeting by hard accusing me, putting us right back in a 50-50.
Right.
But the reason this is so good is because they think they got away with it.
Yes.
And everyone wants that. They're like, oh, wait, he didn't see me. He must not have seen me.
Yeah.
He just saw the dead body and reported. He didn't notice me. It's such a sick move.
That's sweet.
I trapped him real good. It was such a beating. So that it's a very specific thing, but it is just interesting. It turns a 50-50 into like a 90-10 if they don't play around it. Like people don't no, I didn't get voted off. It wasn't a 50-50. Everyone just voted them off because it was just clear. Like, yeah, of course you're the imposter. There could be no other outcome here. So I thought that was a pretty good move. And it's in a game where crew doesn't have that many moves. Like the imposters control more of the information, more of the power. The crew outnumbers them. That's what their advantage is. But I got to make a move and get an imposter out.